Hello. Thank you to UNESCO for convening the sixth 4IA conference in commemoration of the International Day for Universal Access to Information. I'm Michael Markovitz. I'm director of the Media Leadership Think Tank at the Gordon Institute of Business Science in Johannesburg. Our think tank works to strengthen democracy with solutions for African media, with a clear focus on how to sustain public interest journalism in an age of concentrated digital power, not only on the digital platform side, but also on specifically with AI networks and platforms as well. Over the past 2 years, we've played an active role in South Africa's media and digital platforms market inquiry. This process, which was led by South Africa's Competition Commission, was historic in scope. As I wrote in my paper framing the fight for fairer digital markets, the provision of access to credible news as a public good must be considered as a constitutional issue, not only as a matter for commercial competition. The inquiry was shaped by the interventions of civil society. Working in alliance with the South African National Editors Forum, SANEF, and others, our think tank pressed the Commission to expand its scope, and we succeeded. And this was one of the alliance's early wins, was getting artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI, included in the terms of reference of the Commission's inquiry. We argued in our submission that generative AI reproduces, summarizes, and provides responses based on news content without attribution or referral to original sources. And this, of course, without sufficient or any compensation. The Commission agreed with us and included generative AI in the final terms of reference of the inquiry. And their provisional report released earlier this year went even further by proposing remedies. These included allowing South African publishers to opt out of AI summaries and training data sets, mandating negotiated compensation or referral traffic, and encouraging new monetization mechanisms if referral traffic remained negligible. As our SANEF-led alliance emphasized in April 2025 in the submission to the inquiry, referral traffic is not an adequate substitute for transparent obligations, particularly in the light of the increasing reliance on zero-click results, content scraping, and the shift to AI-generated answers. It was a breakthrough that we managed to get this on the agenda. It showed that African civil society helped set the agenda on AI governance, embedding concerns about generative AI in the formal remedies of a very, very complex competition inquiry. From national alliances to global self-collaboration, our think tank's work extends beyond South Africa. Together with colleagues in Brazil and Indonesia, we convened the CTRL+J conference series on tech and journalism in the Global South, held in Sao Paulo, in Jakarta earlier this year, and more recently in Johannesburg on the 4th to 5th of September 2025. As I noted in my reflections on the CTRL+J series, for the first time in this series, Google and Meta participated under Chatham House rules. The exchanges were robust and centered on platform accountability and the future of journalism. Most importantly for today's discussion, CTRL+J Africa became a stage for African scholars to lead the debate on AI and digital governance. Professors Vukosi Marivate and Alison Gillwald both delivered keynote addresses at GIBS on the 5th of September. Their insights extend the very issues we had raised in the Competition Commission inquiry about AI: exclusion, fairness, governance, and public value. Professor Vukosi Marivate, who's head of data sciences at the University of Pretoria, showed how African languages remain largely invisible to large language models. Out of more than 2,000 African language systems, most are excluded from the data used to train AI systems. He warned that this directly affects journalism. Quote, journalism also relies on access to timely, accurate, and relatable information. As such, if you're excluding African languages, it means you're excluding those audiences. To build towards equitable AI, that also means ensuring African citizens are not excluded from the conversation. To build towards equitable AI also means that ensuring African citizens can consume and contribute to media in their mother tongue, close quotes. Prof. Marivate also explained the consequences of this exclusion. Poor performance of global LLMs on African languages leads to mistranslation, loss of nuance, and most seriously, even the erasure of people. At its core, he argued, this is a question of dignity and agency. We want to, he said, and I quote, we want to preserve dignity, allow people to participate, and also have agency in this public sphere. And his call to action was clear. Let's make journalism speak in all of Africa's languages, powered by locally built AI. Prof. Alison Gillwald also addressed the issue of governance and AI, particularly in terms of public value and inequality, and she widened the frame to the global governance level. She stressed that Africa must not remain on the margins of global decision-making. While African countries already have ambitious reform agendas, international fora like the G20 often advance more conservative outcomes that fall short of Africa's own priorities. She also introduced a crucial warning, the digital equality paradox. And I quote, the critical policy problem still remains the issue of the digital equality paradox. That as we overlay these more and more advanced technologies over existing inequalities, we are actually exacerbating these inequalities, close quote. Her analysis of bias was blunt. You can't do ethics by design fix, she said, on the biases in these algorithms because the data is simply not there for Africa. To quote, she said that people of African descent in many parts of the world are simply invisible from these technologies, close quotes. She further pointed out that many African policy frameworks are heavily dependent on donor funding. And while some donor agendas are well-meaning, that's for sure, they are often designed for mature economies and do not address the specific issues that Africa requires to rebalance inequalities and unlock the positive potential of AI. Finally, Prof. Gillwald pointed to a constructive pathway forward, or at least one way, which was that, quote, the public broadcaster, the SABC, could become the major source of local language input for data for modeling, supported by South Africa's Innovation Fund. This could create a virtual cycle of local AI and public interest AI. And as many people may not know, South Africa's public broadcaster broadcasts in 12 official languages and 4 other languages, including sign language. So to get to the conclusion, from the Competition Commission's Media and Digital Platforms Market Inquiry in South Africa to the Tricontinental Control+J series, to the voices of Professor Marivate and Gillwald, one lesson stands out. African civil society must be involved in shaping the governance of AI and digital platforms. I maintain that the Commission's provisional report was distinguished not only by the suggestion of financial and structural remedies, but also by its explicit grounding in constitutional rights and democratic values. The Commission wrote that it recognized the harms caused by platform conduct directly beyond competition outcomes and relate directly to the rights and values enshrined in the Constitution. As I argued in my paper, platform power is not only about economics, but rights, representation, and the future of democratic media systems. So in closing, I'd like to say and repeat the question that I asked to the Control-J Africa conference, which was simple but unavoidable. If not policy, regulation, and legislation, then what? Beyond training, philanthropy, improved trust, and apple pie, what alternatives are there? Not everyone can innovate their way out of market failure. Universal access to information in the AI age will not happen by default. It requires agency, fairness, and redress. It requires African voices, governments, civil society, think tanks, and researchers framing the fight for fairer digital markets and for fairer AI. Thank you very much for listening to my talk. I've included the 4 key references I used for this talk, so hopefully you'll be able to access them. And should you wish to contact us, I think these are some of the links that you may use and some of the publications. And please, if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, there is the email to do so. It's been a privilege to be able to participate in this event, and I thank you very much for listening.